Sweat for Vets 10K. Finished third overall in 55:13 point something. I'll show you the award real quick. They got these, Johnstown Career and Technology Center made these, I guess. Damn, I got some chestnuts falling on my car from the truck, or the tree, whatever. Here's the challenge coin this year. Pretty cool. Finished third overall. I'm very happy with that. A little bit faster than last year. The goal was to be a top 3 coming in, so mission accomplished. I wasn't expecting, honestly, too much coming in. I was just hoping for a top 3. I'm definitely undertrained. I've been detraining, if that's like an actual word, the last couple weeks. Haven't really hit hills too much, or anything that would have been beneficial for trail running. Definitely haven't really hit trails except for races over the last couple months. So I knew my body was able to do the 10K and probably withstand it, just from having done Laurel a couple weeks ago. But being a faster race overall, just being a 10K, I wasn't sure. But I was still hopeful for that top 3, so I got it. Very happy. Was a little bit of a battle in the middle, but it ended up top 3. I was, maybe 2 minutes, I think, ahead of 4th place. So I'm happy with that. So I'll just get to it. So where we started at, like, the Brush Mountain Sportsman's Club, we go on the road. We run the road for almost a mile. We'll say like 9/10 of a mile before we actually jet up the power line. But the first like 2/10 into the race, there was like a guy standing there, and there was like an orange arrow, which I'm about to pass right now as I'm leaving, pointing us into the woods, which is our finish direction. And me and a couple of the other guys that knew the course were like, hey, it's not the right way. So we just kept going straight. So I did have the lead. We'll say like from 2/10 into the race to about 1-1. I knew I wasn't going to be able to maintain it, but still was in the lead just a little bit early on. Because top 2, who actually finished top 2, were pointed in that wrong direction, started going that wrong direction, and then on that road I just kept going because I knew the way, as I told them. Then you go up the power line, which is almost a mile. I would say it's another 8/10, 9/10 up, but with 1,200 feet of gain on the climb. You're pretty much, you do a couple little switchbacks, nothing major, but it is very steadily uphill. So I did walk some of it, power walked it, jogged it a little bit as my legs recovered. So I was playing that little game, going back and forth, walk and jog, not really running per se, except for maybe 2 or 3 small spots, just so I didn't blow up. And it's not really conducive to be able to run up. Was breathing a lot heavier than I was hoping to, but I was still maintaining. I was in 3rd for most of that hill. After I got overtaken by 1st and 2nd, I just, locked into that 3rd place. I think I might have passed 2nd once or twice maybe on the hill, but I was still playing that game of maintaining. But for the most part, I was on that 3rd. He was, sometimes I was right behind him by like a couple steps. Sometimes I was maybe 3 or 4 seconds. It was dependent on which parts like me and him ran or jogged or just power walked. The guy who won, Colton, he was out in front by like a minute at least. Maybe 2 minutes by the time we got in the middle of the hill. And I was looking back and I was like, we at least have 30 seconds on 4th right now. So I wasn't too worried. I was just trying to make it to the top and not blow up and save my legs and hopefully have enough gap on run the downhill section of the race, and it seemed to work. I did push, well, I don't want to say I did push, but probably a little bit more on the hill last year when I was definitely out of shape more. But this year, I don't know if I was actually in more shape or not. I definitely am not in the shape that I would like to be in or should be in right now. But also, I think the weather was a little bit better this year. It was like 50 degrees at the start, maybe a couple degrees less. So I went shirtless, and last year I wore a shirt and I was GoProing, so it did slow me down a lot more last year as well, with those things considered. So that probably helped me maintain and just run better in general. I did wear my naked belt that had a 9-ounce bottle. I didn't really use that until like 4.5, 5 miles into the race. I just took like one little swig. But anyway, I was going up the hill, the power line, you know, I was trying to take the best route possible and avoid the big rocks, try to stay on the sides where it's a little bit smoother or less rocky. I don't know how much time that really saved, but it helped save my legs. So then once we got to the top, there wasn't an aid station there this year like there was in previous years. And I thought to myself right away, I'm glad I took my 9-ounce bottle with me, since that aid station wasn't up there. I know other people were probably looking forward to it or needed it, so I was more self-sufficient. But again, once I got to the top, I knew I had like 30 seconds on fourth, and I wasn't sure what the younger kid in second was going to do on the big rocks, so I was not going to try to push him so he fell. And I didn't want to push either on the big rocks on the downhill section and then fall and trip myself and get hurt. So I just played that game there as well and was just trying to maintain until we could get off the big rocks and sort of down the hill, and then I could turn it on and then use the road to my advantage. And that was sort of my mindset coming in, because once you hit the top, it becomes boulders, and you're running over boulders, maybe some down trees. There might have been 3 or 4 down trees that I actually jumped up on to step off. Yeah, it's not really runnable until you get to the bottom of the hill, because you go up like 1,200 feet, and then you're immediately coming, I don't want to say immediately, but you're going back down 800 to 1,000 feet in the boulders. So that is pretty significant, even though you do go sideways, like left or right a few times. So it's not like a direct descent, which that would be really horrible if it was a direct descent. But you do go down some chutes with like boulders the size of your body, and then like just the size of like a leg or something like that. So you do have to be very careful not to trip or step on a loose rock and go forward. I actually put gloves on, some cotton gloves, so I could grab onto stuff like a tree if need be, if I slipped. Or if I, just fell in general, I didn't scrape up my hands, because I was pretty much counting on it. I was sort of due to trip, so I wanted to protect my hands at all costs. So that's why I did that. It seemed to work, because I know it did grab a few trees. I didn't actually fall or trip at all. It was just one of those safety precautions that I got to use. And I took them back off once we got out of like the Boulderfield area. But some of those chutes were a little sketchy again this year, as they always are, and that's sort of like the draw of the race. But with the shoes that I wore, and I've been wearing for trail races, like the hybrid road/trail shoes, I was actually able to step on top of the rocks and actually stick, which it's just such a huge advantage, because like my Peregrines are too aggressive and I would slip off the rocks, whereas these I could actually stick on top, even if it was like, if you took like a 2x4 or something like that, or even like a 1-inch board, you turn it up on its side, like I'm standing on rocks like that and not tripping and sticking. So it makes a really huge difference in your shoe choice, because I know a lot of people wear actual aggressive trail shoes for this race, and with the road and stuff like that now, it's not really the smart choice to do. So I was very happy with my shoe choice, and I knew it helped me and gave me a little bit of an advantage over people that were just wearing normal trail shoes. Of course, that is from my experience of doing the race and just being a trail runner in general. And I was waiting for somebody to come up from behind me and pass me on the downhill part. I didn't really take any risks, but I was riding that edge as well of, okay, do you want to go a little bit more aggressively on these rocks and take a little bit of risk, or do you want to play it safe and waste some time in there? And it was kind of a fine line. I don't know what I really ended up doing. I would just say I teetered on the edge of that. Because if you go and you take the risk and you fall, it sort of just wrecks your whole race. So I didn't do that. And then on the little runnable sections on the downhill, maybe like the 10 yards here, 10 yards there that we were able to run, I did use that to my advantage and did run it. And I just knew I had to make it to that right-hand turn once we level out some for a couple tenths. And I looked back once I hit that, and I knew I had at least a 20-30 second gap still then. So I was happy and a little bit confident there. It allowed me to mentally relax some. I could see second ahead of me. He was, again, only a few seconds here or there in front of me, depending on what section, like if he was able to run right before I was, so he'd gain a little bit of distance, but whatever. So we ran that, I ran that flat section before we pop out onto the power line again. I did choke a little bit there. I think it was just from all that bouncing, as I tell people, from the rocks. It just shakes my stomach up, so I was bouncing a little bit. So I did gag, I didn't puke or slow down, I just kept going. Then once we hit that power line again, as we hit, I think we pop out maybe the middle of it, somewhere around there, maybe at least a third of it. I turned it on there, was doing like some sixes down there, using that free speed as well, just trying to get ahead of and gap people behind me. And when I got to the bottom where we turned back on the road, I looked back and I was like, all right, I'm very confident now that I could take a top three since we hit the road, and I had that 30 plus second gap at least on the road. I think it was more like a minute by then. I was like, all right, you got this, as long as you don't do something stupid on the road section. So when we turn to the right, we go out maybe half mile, give or take, and I was just flooring it there. My legs were burning a little bit because it is a little bit of an incline, and there is like a hump, a nice little steeper hump, I guess, right before you do a quick dip down for the turnaround. And second place was maybe 10 seconds ahead of me at that point, maybe 15, I don't know what it was. I was like, all right, whatever, I'm not worried about him. Still got to try to maintain and see what's going on. I just kept my head down at the turnaround until I saw somebody actually coming towards me, the fourth place guy, and he was wearing an orange shirt. I just kept my head down until he passed me, because I didn't want to see him coming, because I was afraid that I would slow down a little bit if I saw him, or relax, and I didn't want to relax until I actually saw him pass me. So that's why I kept my brim of my hat down and my head down, just going forward. Whatever the time was on my watch, I think it was like 43:40 or 42:40, and it had to be 43:40, because I think he passed me at 44:45, so I had a minute 5 seconds from the turnaround to he passed me, so 2:10, because you got to double that, because he's got to go out and then he's got to make it to the spot that I was like, all right, that gives me at least 2 minutes right now of time that I'm ahead. So I relaxed a little bit after that, because I was like, all right, I got this with only like a mile and a half left. I ain't gonna blow up. Don't do nothing stupid. I can maintain a, 8.5 minute pace the rest of the way and take it without him catching up, because he'd have to do like a 4. But I was dropping like a low 6 then. Started catching second place. Actually caught back up to him. I was slowly gaining on him, and I actually went beside him at one point. I think I might have been like a foot or 2 ahead, and then he started kicking again. And then I just hung right back behind him after that. I would have taken second, but I was more concerned with staying in the top 3 and not blowing up than trying to overtake him for second, because you know how I am. I say this all the time. If I'm not first, I want a top 3, and the difference between second and third really doesn't make a difference to me. I know some people it does, but me it doesn't, as long as I'm in that top 3. So I just like hung back behind him, maybe a couple feet at the most, and then right as we go to turn it back into the last little trail section, it's like 4 or 5 tenths to finish up the race. I got right back ahead of him and beside him again, and then he kicked a little bit more, and I just hung back, and I was just like, he could have it, whatever. Then he ended up finishing like maybe 10 seconds ahead of me as I pulled back as I was coming into the finish line around the little pond that we run around. He kicked it in, and I just kept staying steady as I hung back. So that's why he finished like 10 seconds instead of me and him finishing within like 2 seconds of each other or less. I did gag a little bit right before that pond. Same spot I did last year. I think it's because of that little creek bed that we jump over. It's only like 4 or 5 feet. I think it just shakes my stomach enough where it makes me gag. Because again, it was the same spot as last year. But whatever. I just knew I had that 2-minute cushion, because there's no way when I was dropping like a low 6s on the road to get to there that anybody was going to be dropping a 4. So whatever. So as we came in, went around the pond, and I ended up finishing 3rd. So very happy with that, because I wanted my top 3. And I knew I wasn't going to win coming in. I just thought it was going to be a battle between like 4 of us or 5 for the top 3. So it was going to be like, all right, who has it today? But the younger kid was sort of the dark horse of the race, the unknown. Sort of the shocker, I guess, because the 2 guys, the guy was 2nd last year and 4th last year were there. I was like, all right, so between the 3 of us, I figured the 2 of us were going to get a top 3. Colton was going to win, but then that kid threw a wrench into it because he stayed strong the whole race. So luckily I had enough, or was fit enough, was able to like hang on to a 3rd place. Had a nice cushion, so mission accomplished. I love this race. It's always a great time, great atmosphere. It's for the vets, and again, they always give that challenge coin. And what I always say about this every year as well, what makes this race special is a veteran hands you that challenge coin as you finish the race. It's just one of those special moments that you don't really get at another race. So I don't know, I just love the race in general. It's always a challenge in that power line going up there, and being a shorter race, like you might do a trail race where there is like an 800 or 1,000-foot climb, but those races are generally like your longer, like 50Ks or 100Ks. It's not a short 10K race where you actually have to strategize more there, because if you just walk the whole thing, you're going to get overtaken, whereas a 50K you can recover from. So just something fun and something different. I always encourage people to come to the race, because everybody talks to each other and has a good time. So check it out. I just love Sweat for Vets 10K, even though the course has changed some over the last couple of years, where it's been more road, just because of permission wise. It used to be like all trail, and the power line, but now it's more road. I would say over half of it's road and then the power line. So it is what it is. But I don't know, good day, good race. I had fun, met some new people. The stash, really digging the stash for racing too. But I'm just happy I didn't have to wear a shirt today, because I definitely would have been way too hot and overheated. I did splash myself a little bit with water at the both times I passed the aid station, like coming off of it from the power line, and then after I came back from the turnaround, I didn't use it on the way up to the power line, but I splashed water on myself both times as I passed it midway through the race, and it did help keep me cool a little bit. We'll see what happens next year if I can come back and do the race. Maybe I'll be in better shape. But either way, it's always a good time. And I saw, this one woman I know, her and her husband were there, and it was just fun because seeing her talked about it today, because this was her first race, and she picked this race of all the races that do as her first race, and she was just riding that high after the race. So I have to give a shout out to her, because she was just so happy about it. So it was just one of those cool moments I got to see today, like her riding that first race high. So that was just something very cool and interesting about the race today. So congratulations to her on picking a very hard 10K, probably one of the hardest 10Ks you could find as your first race. So just thought I'd end on that one.